So I don't know. So we're for sure going to stop after 2 hours. We're not going to do any 4 hour nonsense. I feel like we have to stop doing that because it's killing both of us.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
fair.
yeah, it's like nothing on you, nothing on me. I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, I've noticed in our recordings our energy levels just get lower the longer it goes, and it's like, yeah, 2 hours is kind of like an acceptable limit, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just shit was just like, this is going on way too long. What I want to talk about is I want about like crutches in factions, so like models and things people do in the game that um like they rely on. Like so like an example would be like the Hellbringer Drake or like Ashen Dawn. Those are some really
Mm.
good like example crutches. And then I kind of want to talk about like lists, like in another aspect with lists, because like we can always talk about lists. There's so much with lists, and like the thing I want to talk about list is um sweepers and pivots and what that actually means, because like Conquest has a lot of sweeper lists, but it doesn't have what people would generally like call a pivot very well. Like they are there, except it's harder for people to build into them, I've noticed, just because of
Mm-hmm.
how the game is kind of played, and because of like because of my War Machine background. Like we had the two list format, so what you would do is you build one sweeper and you'd build one pivot, and you would play your
Mm.
sweeper into like all its matchups that are good and do really really well, and then you'd play the pivot into basically anything the sweeper couldn't beat, so you would have that second list designed to beat all that, and you would cover about 90% of all your matchups. Like that's kind of was the idea in War Machine
Yeah.
with the two list pair. So and I really like that. But in Conquest, because we're a one list tournament, like or events or whatever, or how we do things, um, the you can't. You kind of like you you can't like do that. And also, sweepers are easier to play because if you get into your matchup, you go from like, I don't know, let's say a 40-60% chance to win to like an 80-90% chance to win. So it's like so much higher comparatively to just guarantee a win if you have a sweeper. But if your opponent has the counter to your sweeper, it's not good for you at all. Like that's
You
kind of,
sweepered when you should have pivoted.
yeah, exactly. That's where it comes from. Like, so the terminology actually comes from Pokemon games, because you have your 6 Pokemon roster when you build your Poke Team.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the correct
Yeah, I know
terminology.
how Pokemon works.
Yeah, so like competitive Pokemon players will actually have sweeper Pokemon that are just like designed to just like kill, 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 and then pivot Pokemon when the sweeper's counters get thrown out, because it's like, oh no, they play
Mm-hmm.
this thing. Oh, I'm gonna play the pivot. What kind of like deals with that thing? And so pivot lists are kind of more they're more generalist, they're more all comers lists, they have more tools, so they're looking for things in the factions that are like the
Hey, listen, are we just recording at
oh
this
yeah,
point?
we
Did we
are,
already?
don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't worry. So like I started playing Elden Ring, and that's why I turned on the recording, because I wasn't gonna take my hands off this damn thing.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know if
then I don't
I'm
feel
gonna
so
have
bad.
the footage like but I just wanted to keep my hands busy because I just need to, or else I start touching shit, looking at things.
Hmm.
So, and people are like, you should get a fidget spinner. I'm like, no, I'm not getting a fucking fidget spinner. Fuck that. Anyway, so pivot, general tools, all that stuff. So like, I wanna talk about that and kind of like dive into those things. And I want to talk about like minis that people are crutching on, that they're using to make up for their poor plays, because as I've played more and as I've seen like other players play at a higher level, you can beat like 80 to 90% of the player base with just positioning alone. What's kind
Mm-hmm.
of a tell, like it's like that next step up. Like if you're just beating players on positioning, then it's like, okay, you're doing really well. You don't have to, you're in a good spot. So that's my whole like, that's what I want to talk about today. What are your thoughts, homegirl?
Um, I mean, this sounds great to me.
Oh, okay. Do you currently have any opinions on any of the stuff I said, or do you want to just like get into it?
Well, see, I don't know. You blindsided me with the whole "we're already recording" thing, so I feel like I'm a little bit flat-footed here. I guess the one note that I'll make before we really dive into things is just like you can't run two lists in Conquest because it's already impractical to take 4 dinosaurs across the country. So how in the hell are you going to take 8 dinosaurs across the country? Not everyone has a dinosaur van that they can load up with dinosaurs to take to the tournament.
Oh fuck! Oh my god. Okay, so
So I think that's something that's the elephant, or if you will, dinosaur in the room.
Thank you, Cass. That was good.
That's why they pay me nothing.
That's why they pay me $30 per hour. Yeah. So the thing about Conquest and the two-list pair is I feel like I feel like some minis that might not see as much play or like are tech pieces, like Hunter Cadre is very much a tech piece, will see more play because they have that option to be in that second list. The other thing, though, is what you could implement if you really want to is like a sideboard. This is like a concept from Magic the Gathering. Once again, was used in War Machine. So in War Machine, you had a 75-point list, and you had either 15 or 25 points sideboard, what was like a bunch of other stuff that you could swap out into your main list before the game began, and then you would play the game. So you'd be like, I'm swapping out my Stormblades for Sword Knights. If anyone knows what those are, you know that was a terrible idea. But anyway, that's my example. So yeah, I don't know. There's a bit of me that's like bringing in more tech pieces into the game and allowing that to happen. And there's like, there's different ways to do it. I don't like. I don't think this was actually truthfully a really thought out idea, to be honest. Like, this is just me kind of like rambling on about things you could do to have these different play styles in more easily in the game itself. Like, this would obviously have to be like, Leandros would have to look over it. Leandros, I'm using him specifically because he is the main dev. I'll use the Parabellum Royal We. The Parabellum developer would have to look over it, make that decision, think if it's right for their game and all that stuff, and do all the testing if they actually want to go that route. Like, that's just how it is. But there is other games have done it. So like if they wanted to go that route, they totally could. Like, option. I'm gonna kill myself. Yep. So yeah. What do you want to start with first? Do you want to start with sweepers? Do you want to start with pivots? And then we'll talk about crutches.
I mean, I feel like the sweeper is really the logical starting point because it's
the easiest. So
yeah, that's what you're going to be running 90% of the time.
I don't want to say 90 because like so the thing why I say it's the easiest because it's the easiest to build. Like, any player can build a sweeper because it's also like a tribe. Like this is like this is once again taken from Magic. It's a theme list. Like, you can like the all horse list in 100K that I played like a year ago. That was a sweeper list, and that was also just a themed list. It was like, I just want to take all horses, done. And it had no other strategy than to bum rush my opponent with horse. Like, that's its whole stick. 100K Ashen Dawn is actually a really good like example of the sweeper itself, because if you don't have the tools to kill off like 3 to 4 units of Ashen Dawn, you're not going to be able to win that game, and you're kind of hoping that your opponent stalls out, or you kind of kill everything else around the Ashen Dawn so they don't have scoring and they can stay on zones. Like, your goal and how you play into it changes, but if you have the tools to kill it, so I'm gonna Carl's World Spires list with -1 defense and then deadly shot, AP2 double Leonian with marksman clones who also can get deadly shot. Just kind of eat the Ashendon. Like, you can still play a good game in that and probably like get really close to tabling the Spires player, but you also are so far behind on scenario that by turn 10, there's no way you can catch up kind of thing. So, and the Spires player has all the tools available because that Spires player is playing a pivot list, but has the tools available to deal it. And like, that's one of the things with Spires that I've noticed is that it actually has a lot of tools in the game to deal with a lot of things. Like Sorcerer Kings is another pivot style faction. What can kind of get into that, while I find some other factions don't really pivot that well. So 100k kind of can. Dweghome, you're kind of just like focusing on your game plan. Like, so Dweg Castle is another example of a sweeper list. It's also a gun line. So you got your 2 Hellbringer Drakes, you got your 2 wizards on top who are casting spells and shit. You have your Fireforge support, your whole ballistas, and then you're probably taking like a couple melee stuff, so like either Steel Forge or Flame Berserkers, depending on what you want to do. And you're just kind of winding up. You're letting your opponent hit you, you're getting set up in a really good spot, and you're just kind of blasting them until your opponent dies. And then at that point, at the end of the game, you just kind of run onto all the zones, super score, and you win the game. Like that's the whole game plan. And it very much asks your opponent, do they know how to play into gun lines? And can they break the castle before the castle just annihilates everything? And there are players and lists that cannot deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some that you've kind of seen?
Well, I don't know that I'm necessarily like I can confidently speak to the same, like, because I've also just not been paying attention. Like, I haven't been playing actively for a while, so my firsthand experience with lists for the most part. But the thing is, like, I don't know that model necessarily, like, if I'm being perfectly honest, to me doesn't really seem to like transpose to Conquest the same way, just because of the nature of it. Like, it's very much, and I'm fighting against all my will to not just make a stupid pun here.
No, do it.
And to actually make a point. Well, like, pivoting ultimately is antithetical to the game of Conquest, so I mean, you have some wheel lists, but that's about as hard as it gets. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right,
I feel
that was good. That was actually very funny. That was a good one.
But like, so I feel like in general, Conquest is not a game about flexibility, really. Okay. It's a game about, like, it really is a game about, like, locking in. Just from the way that the command deck is built, and the way that movement works, and how you're largely, like, all but the most mobile units are generally locked into, like, the vector that they came into the battlefield on. Or else you're sacrificing like a lot of momentum to correct that. It's like you said, you win 90% of the games on positioning. So like, and that's half literal, half metaphorical when I talk about what's actually happening on the table. But like, I think it's emblematic of sort of where the game is like, it's flexible in the sense that you get front loaded with a lot of decisions to make at list building and then at deck building and so on. But then it's like,
you just do it.
Those decisions filter down, and then you are sort of like, you're working within the constraints of the decisions that you have. So I feel like the idea of like Conquest at its core to me is a game of making it work rather than having just like, oh, I'm going to adapt with this. Except of course for the game space where that's made possible, like in the Spires and stuff. But like generally speaking, I don't really like, because I mean, you're not, and the other thing is, like, to me, there isn't, like, the meta isn't solid enough for the for there to be like with Magic, right? You've got 1 million people who are testing every possible combination of cards in a set. And how it impacts, every format that comes before it and after it, and you're just getting so much data that, like, a lot of the best in slot and the archetypes that are that make up the sort of the game at the high level whenever a new set drops or whatever. That's just tested a lot more, and I know that like there are a lot of people in the community who do extensive testing, and I'm not trying to say that they're necessarily like wrong about their conclusions or anything, but like I don't think that necessarily the game is as solved as some people will kind of treat it at times. And part of that just comes down to like ultimately like to me the way that a meta develops is you're originally like, so you get into Conquest with no foreknowledge of how it's played at a high level, and you're just playing it as Alessio Cavatore intended, so to speak. Like you're just playing the game.
I'm sorry, Alessio Cavatore.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it right. Like, are we gonna do this?
No. I'm just like, is that actually like a Latin phrase, like magnum opus kind of thing? Like,
no. That's the guy who designed the original version of the Conquest rules.
Actually, oh, okay. Well, no, Leanne.
Yeah.
I just keep I've still don't. That Conquest rulebook, I have not checked who originally designed it. I still haven't gone into the back there and like, oh, it was this guy. Okay.
It's an Alessio joint. He's an old school GW guy. But
oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and you can kind of see it in the original version of the rules, but that's a different podcast altogether, or possibly an episode of Closer with Cassandra. But no, we're not even going to touch that for now. Let's get back on track here. So, I don't think that the game has largely been solved, and the point that I was usually trying to make is I think the way that the meta develops is you play stupid version of the game initially when you don't know anything, and then as you start to learn what wins, that becomes like the seed of the local meta for you or the regional meta, and then how people respond to that is sort of like the ladder of tech that develops and evolves over time as the metagame, barring major revisions to the game, which of course are going to disrupt that. But I think that's essentially what drives a lot of the high level play at this point, is just like yes, they're testing a ton, and I don't want to dismiss like the work that they are doing to develop lists and stuff, but like I don't think that they have an absolute volume of perfect data, and that's whether it's in North America or like in Oceania or in like Eastern Europe, any of the the places where a lot of Conquest is getting played.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're generating a lot of data that's most relevant for what they're dealing with regionally, and then you sort of saw how that these different styles came together and interacted with each other at Worlds even. But my point is,
we gotta talk about
by and large. Yeah, by and large, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like the sweep and pivot ecosystem that hypothetically exists is very limited, and it's constrained just by the fact that it's like, unlike a game like Magic where there's 10,000 pieces, in the most extreme version of it, 10,000 plus cards that you can use to compose a deck. Mm-hmm. The list building and the archetypes that the list building permits you to fulfill, once it's further constrained by like the absolute like play Conquest requirements of like units that score, units that kill, etc. There's more pieces that you have to take, and there's less variance. So it's, I mean, like you said, there are definitely some regiments that would get more play if there was the ability to swap in and out. Like I think the idea of like a few hundred points of sideboard, like you mentioned, is actually pretty intriguing. That's something that feels workable, and then you would have more of a reason to to bring an extra regiment and to sort of have that like 1.5 version of your list that you run to deal with contingencies. Like that makes tons of sense to me, more than like trying to play the sweep and pivot game on like a list wide level, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, and that's I agree with you there. Like, and that's kind of why a lot of players just end up building like a sweeper archetype list. Like it's not like
Like, I don't feel like I'm going to run into anything that, for instance, like for my part, hard counters Bochos into the point where it's just like, well, gotta,
don't worry,
do something else.
The loose formation spam is the new meta.
Yeah.
But like, no, I get you there, and like, it's kind of like how there's like strategy and tactics. Like, strategy is your overall game plan to win. Your tactics are all the little things you do while playing to achieve your strategy. So, in 100K, in Ashen Dawn, your strategy is to ram Ashen Dawn down your opponent's throat, break through, and start killing all their stuff. The tactics you do are going to be trying to bait your opponent with Fluid Formation Seal Temple, trying to get into the flank with the Seal Temple, trying to score stuff with the Seal Temple, trying to support the Ashen Dawn and protect them from their flanks of the Seal Temple. Like, those are some tactics you're doing. While with Ashen Dawn, you might be march charging somebody, next turn clashing, killing them, and then charging into something behind and then blessing. Like, that's a tactic. That's not, like, you're still applying the same strategy of just pushing Ashen down your opponent's throat. Like, but it's kind of like that. Like, you're like, the pivot and sweeper are kind of like list archetypes, and how that works. Like, the pivot lists are like usually harder to kind of like play and master, because there's a lot more pieces going along, and there's a lot more things you need to do and keep track of. While the sweeper is very much like horse go burr, Dwight Castle go pew pew. Stuff like that. Raptors go fast, take up all the board. So yeah, like, when I first saw this, I was like, I knew that guy wouldn't be last. I knew he was not going to be winning though, and he did very well. I believe that was the Blitzminis guy, so good on him. But yeah, like, so your thing about, like, I guess, like, do you feel like it's like I'm trying to like conform the meta to this idea or concept? Like, that's kind of what I was getting a little bit.
Not exactly. It's just I don't. So in a sense, you're not wrong, but you also are, because it's not the way that I want you to take it.
Oh, okay.
It's more so that I think that there's certain realities of Conquest as a system that sort of, like, it's if you can think back to one of our original, like, meeting up at game night outside of Thursday nights to play a game, we noted or observed that the game actively punishes your cleverness. So
yeah.
So it's a very, like, to me, Conquest by and large, and this is something that I'm saying that I like about it, don't get me wrong, but it's a very, like, it's all about the fundamentals, It's all about, it's not about being like tricky and doing big plays. The fact that it usually fucks you.
Well, yeah.
So to that end, like, essentially, like, it's a game that rewards you finding, like, the pieces that work and then using them, because they're almost like that system of, like, I don't feel like that system of countering. How do I explain? Like, so there's always going to be, like, a rock, paper, and scissors to the way that units are designed in this game.
Do you mean sword, spear, and axe from Fire Emblem?
Yeah, we can use that too. But there's always going to be, like, this beats this and gets beat by that, because that's how you make a game. But it's also, like, you don't have the... So and also, like, the other thing is, in a game like Warhammer 40,000, for instance, like, the way that the point breaks are set up and everything is, like, you have a ton of extra points to have a little guy who stands in the back and never interacts with anything, and just, you give GW $45 for a unit that stands in one place. Sorry, that's a weird complaint, but it's true though. Like, it's a unit, it's just one little guy, and he just stands in a back point behind a wall, And ideally, you never think about him for the rest of the game, and he just passively scores for that. But like, and like everything else, like nothing else needs to do what he's doing, and it's all further up the board. So he's generally like, unless something is deep striking to get him or whatever, like he's safe to do his thing. So like, it's not like Conquest where it's like if you lose a bunch of regiments, like now you don't have the board presence to score and kill at the same time, or like, so everything like every decision that you make in Conquest is about like efficiency and effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, I think, skews towards generalism, just in the way that you have to play the game.
Yeah, no.
And maybe as we get to the point where there are more like specialized regiments coming out for each faction and stuff like that, and more like if we were still living in the age of like units with D5 and stuff,
Oh god.
then I would say like, yeah, you need to have like a sideboard with like super cleavers and things like that. But like in the game in its current form, I like the optimal choice is not typically going to like, and I feel like I'm getting muddled at this point and kind of making 2 points at once, which I don't feel great about. But at least compared to where I started, but I guess this is that's the point of having a discussion is to talk through things. I don't really know. Who the fuck knows anymore?
Yeah, we're chatting.
But like, yeah, it's just I don't like. I think in a different game. There's a lot of validity to everything, to that concept and to that approach to building lists and to taking on lists and things like that, or something in like a TCG or a Magic the Gathering type scenario. Like absolutely, you're going to be more apt to focus on that sort of thing, and that isn't even just like a miniatures are heavy to carry thing. It's just like, it's just the nature of the game. Like you've got more space, we'll say, to do different things. And like the other thing is with a bigger game, or like a game with like War Machine, and I didn't play War Machine, mind you, so I don't know that this is necessarily the case, but it feels like the individual units did have a lot more sort of variance in what they were and what they did.
Yeah.
Then it makes like you can wind up building lists that do things that another list has no ability to counter or interact with in the slightest, right? But the other thing about Conquest is like that doesn't really like happen in the rules as much. Like there's not really as many things that just like, like the game is very careful and judicious about making sure that you don't have like an evasion 4 thing that just completely nullifies cleave or anything like that. So generally speaking, like all the pieces, even if they're not, like everything is a little bit generalized within the rules at the cost of things being a little bit specialized in the rules. And they've even like they managed to diversify it versus the like if you look at the 1.0 army lists where it was just like, here's the Dragon Slayers, and veterans are the Wadroon Dragon Slayers, and Steel Legion are the 100 Kingdoms Dragon Slayers.
Yeah. I do appreciate that they have started, I don't want to say started, but they have been really like showing diversity and stuff, because like how their system works and how they do stats and how they have abilities, they either need to start doing like weirder, wacky rules, or like have some way to start diversifying units more, so you don't have things like piling it on in different factions, and then one thing being like, okay, well, this is literally the exact same regiment, like point to point, like stat for stat, but this one costs 20 points more because it's in a faction that allows it to, like, let's say triple activate. Like,
yeah.
And so it's like, well, it's not really a great pick because of that. Because you're actually never going to triple activate off this regiment because it's actually not that great because it's men-at-arms. So yeah, it's, it's kind of like that. So I do appreciate that Parabellum actually is doing that. I kind of it wasn't when we first started playing. It wasn't. I don't want to say relevant, but like it was. It was kind of like you could kind of see it. Like if you're looking for it back when we first started playing, you could kind of see it, like how the stats and how the game was going, or not going, but like how the game was kind of played. That like,
so
these stats and abilities are like too close, and Parabellum has been doing a great job to not, or like to keep that up, to mix it up and have them be their own thing and have their unique identity. That's where I'm getting at. And because there was a time there where I was like looking as stuff was coming out, you know, because we had all that previews and stuff, where I'm like, we're just gonna hit a point where like you're just having the same thing in each regiment, like, or not each regiment, each faction. Like, this is not how you would do a game, to be honest.
Yeah.
So like as everything's been happening, it's been really good.
One thing I do want to mention though is if you look at Old World, and if you look at even like that PC game SOVL or Sovel or whatever it's called.
Yeah, good old Sovel. Should play that at some point.
Too much. I think it's a lot of fun, but it gets the non-randomness of the dice gets more evident the higher the difficulty gets. And that's a little bit annoying about it.
Versus stat kind of thing? Like that's how Sovel does it?
Well, when you get to the so here's once you play it, you'll understand. Like at the higher difficulties, like there's so little turnover because everything saves. Like everything hits, but everything saves. But the dice for the computer are just a little bit sweeter than yours. Yeah, and that's and I mean they address it in a tooltip in a way that makes me think like I'm not wrong, because they're just glib enough about it that it invites you to dismiss the possibility, which I know sounds like me being paranoid, but guess what? I'm fucking crazy. So I absolutely am paranoid. But I'm right on this one, I think. Anyway, but the point is, those old rank and flank fantasy games were not about like bananas unit and army diversity. Like you were largely like it was a skin for regular soldier stats, and that's, I mean, everything in Old World has hand weapons that do nothing, you know. It's just a general term to be like this is your attack loadout because you have just whatever the fuck is on hand. Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, but then like the weapons that you can take, like they're all generic across the factions, and generally the stat lines are like pretty similar from the archetype to archetype, like or role to role in each faction, with some exceptions, of course, and some variants. But it's, again, like generally speaking, like you're looking at a pretty consistent curve with just some small variants across the different factions. So I think that's just old wargame design versus like modern wargame design, where it's like, let's make every faction like a MOBA character where it has a completely unique loadout and playstyle and look, or like a hero shooter character for that matter. Like it's, and that's not, I'm not saying that as a critique or anything, but I think it's an observable difference between old war games and new war games. But anyway, that's just something that I wanted to remark on, generally speaking, about it. But like Conquest, as it's evolved, they've started to put more like texture and granularity in the individual units, so it gets to the point where it's like yeah, I don't know. It's like, I see what you're saying overall, but I want to, like, I would love to engage with you on the basis that we both agree on it, but I don't know that I see it the way that
that's
that
fine.
You do necessarily. So
that's 100%
I don't know. It
okay.
kind of sounds like we're fighting.
No, I don't think we're fighting at all. We're having a discussion about it. Like, I'm fine with like not agreeing with you. That's why you're my co-host, so you can provide your opinion, a different view.
Mhm.
So remember way back when we first started, we were like, yeah.
I do remember that. We used to just sit there and make those noises for just
3 hours, and people
staring at each other dead in the eyes.
Yeah, for some reason, people were like, "Yeah, this is a great idea," and I'm like, "What the fuck is happening?" People listen to this? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that just because of how Conquest is a game, and yeah, I do agree on the meta thing. Like, I don't think the meta is solved. I just think a couple factions. Like, if you want my meta opinion, I think some factions are down, some factions are up. It'll change as more things develop. Like, we know a bunch of reworks are coming out for, like, I know 100k Dwag and Spires, so those will hopefully bring those factions up. Because I've been seeing, like, lately a bit of an imbalance of, like, not necessarily power, but interest and something to, like, hook you into that faction. Like, the baseline lore and idea of the factions still draw people in initially, but they don't hold people if the faction itself isn't interesting to play. So it's kind of like as you mentioned, the new war game design philosophy. Like, the Sorcerer King's what is it? Ritual mechanic, the Wadroon chanting, Old Dominion's Dark Power, like, those are things that, like, draw you in and, like, kind of like a mini game you play to play your faction and gain some kind of benefit or power over your opponent by using those army rules. Well, some factions, like 100k, like, you're like, oh, double warlord, oh, vets, oh, relentless like, it's not interesting at all. I'm just gonna use them because they're kind of on the down point of, like, not necessarily faction identity, but, like, interesting things to do consistently. It's like, it's just, you just build the lists. Like, 100k really hasn't evolved in the last, like, year and a bit. So
No, that's a good way of putting it. Like, like, starting from 1.0, like, there was an up until right before the Wadroon, every faction was designed as just like, that's the army.
Number go burr.
Yeah, the special rules and the faction rules were not really developed at that point in any significant way. Not to the same degree that chants changed things. And then with chants and rituals and what's the other one? Fuck. That you
Chants,
just mentioned.
rituals, dark power. There is also, so sorry City States players, there's a strategic stack.
Well,
but here's the thing, I really don't give a shit about it.
I was actually I'm going somewhere with that too.
Oh, okay.
I've got some words about the strategic stack, but so those three represent, and Sorcerer Kings came after City States, so it's not a perfectly linear thing, but I think they're the dark power, rituals, and chants are all emblematic of one special rule design philosophy, which is based around, like, having, like, a mechanic that is unique and like developed that you have to do. The strategic stack is kind of the middle ground in that regard, because it does change sort of the way that you do things, sort of, but it's not really something that you have to, and it is something that you have to do, but it doesn't require nearly as much active management. But for the most part, the other factions get the retroactive design for special rules, which was just like something that gives you a little stat bump if you do things a certain way. And that is,
Parabellum?
I think it works.
Parabellum was just like, here, have a little bit of Coke, guys. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Bump. But, like, yeah, I wish. I really win some tournaments. Anyway,
yeah, sorry,
not my life anymore.
Damn.
The point, though, is I dropped a head. Like, it works sometimes. Like, I think it's good for the Nords. I think it mostly works I think the Dweghome one could probably be like they tried to do the tokens thing and then had to pull back on it because just any
Well, here's
like,
the thing about the tokens. It's no, it's an army rule if you play that warlord. Yes, it's an army rule if you play that type. If you play tempered, but like their baseline army rule is just you ignore the not ignore the reinforcement line, but your reinforcement line doesn't get pushed back.
oh,
Yeah, so it's like it's an army rule that gets added when you play any of the tempered, so Steel Shaper or Wizard.
okay, well, never mind. They have an
Yeah.
old bad army rule. I take
Yeah.
that back.
Yeah, you think that's their army rule, but it's not. It's something that gets added on as an army rule when you're playing, like, when you choose that type of warlord, similar to the Argent Kirawa. Like he gets to have regiments unbreak the moment they break the first time.
I started thinking about that that Megamind guy.
Oh, Will Ferrell?
And no, that face, the no bitches meme.
Oh.
But now I forgot the thing that was going to be. Oh yeah, no shit tickets.
All right,
that's how I felt when I found
all right. I can meme that.
But like that's crazy. No shit tickets at all. You can just run in there. Just
you can raw dog Dwag. You can do some Dwag raw dog. I wrote that down. I'm gonna meme that later. That's so good.
Gross. I don't know that you should necessarily conflate raw dogging with having a dirty butt. That isn't doing anybody any favors.
No. I don't know if you can tell, but my shits have fallen very hard. I'm like, yeah, whatever. We're gonna have some fun. Well, that guy's a fancy sword.
But yeah, yeah, that's bad. So anyway, but I guess that proves the point. Like for the most part, the old army rules are just like, I don't know, why don't you have +1 of this? Like,
yeah, just have here. Like, what was the Nords one? Oh, if you get hurt, if you
get +1 attack. Well, originally it was if you get hurt, you get Fury.
No, that wasn't your halved. It was you get +1 attack if you get hurt the 1 wound, and then if you go down to half, you get Flurry. But it was
not Flurry, Fury, the old +1 attack rule.
Yeah, and then when you got to half, you got Flurry. But it was just like, my shit explodes. Please.
Yeah, okay, my 3 guys are gonna throw out their broken Flurry hits.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
great. Oh, +1 because of the army rule.
Yeah,
I say,
like
wanting to die.
It was totally an army rule that you just did not play into, because it's like, man, if I'm getting touched by anything, I'm probably dead.
Yeah.
Like the thing that Nords wanted at the time was to take a wound from like broken ground, and then like while charging somebody, so they could have an extra attack.
Well, that was in the second iteration of the Nords rules, when getting damaged would give you, like, all you had to do was take 1 wound and the whole unit would get +1 attack, like, per stand.
Oh god,
it was like, so you wanted your well, no, it was better in the long run, because that was after they changed to per stand. So you weren't losing any output, so you would charge through terrain that would hurt you.
Oh, that's right.
Take the wound, it would round up to 1 wound, or round down to 1 wound because of the army rule. Mm-hmm. Then you would get the +1 attack on the unit that charged through, and then you just beat ass. So that was the slightly better implementation of it, but now they've just cut the shit and made the units good. What Parabellum I think has learned over the last little while is to just make the units good in the first place and not make you do like an obstacle course to have a good unit.
Yeah, it helps a lot, because it's like, well, if all the stars align, I'm a god amongst men. It's like, man,
yeah.
Fuck, like when we were playing when you were playing with Droon early on and you explained chants to me, I was like, okay, I don't remember any of this shit does. All I know is that if you're losing all your support guys, aka blooded, you're just not gonna do anything because you can't generate enough chant tokens to do anything.
Yep.
Like, and that's all I did to you, is I would just kill all your auxiliary stuff. You wouldn't have any chant tokens, so you would just like
Or they would
hit.
start going off at the wrong time.
Yeah, that was even well for me. That was even better. For you, it was awful.
Yes.
So like, yeah. What am I getting at there? Yeah, you didn't do that. You didn't do that, and they went off the wrong time. So it was just like it. It kind of nerfed you, and it was like, okay, cool. I'm happy. Like I don't. It's like you'd be like, I got this chant off. I'm like, yeah, I don't really care. You could tell me that you have like 30 smites, and I would just be like, yeah, sure, that sounds about right.
Nope.
Like that's how chanting was for me for like the longest time, and how it functioned and worked. Wow,
Yeah.
I am getting my shit kicked in by a guy who has like no health, but decided to fight on a stairwell.
Hmm.
There we go, he's dead. So yeah, it's I do agree. I'm glad Parabellum is just like put the power into the regiment. They get little extra bonuses if they do the weird shit, but it's not the end of the world if they don't, because that was an issue. Because there's plenty of times where you could just kind of outplay your opponent, and it just got worse when it's like, oh, I need that extra bit of power to like win, like come back, and it's like my opponent's just fucking me to death here.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's you like they were so afraid of overpowering through the rule that they just made it so that you would just be like that you were screwed without it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also then they also made it disruptible. So you could get screwed and then in the case of the timing based rule, screwed a third time, which is like great when you're not playing a war game with people you really like, but not so great when you're trying to play a balanced war game that's competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So and I guess chants have gotten a little bit better, but for the most part, like honestly, as we discussed, the rework of Wadroon is really at the point where I'm kind of just like, guess it's time to focus on the old fucking guys, the Nords. You know,
you gotta get your Goth Valkyries back in there. Are you gonna paint them up like Goth?
No, I have a specific. So there's a signature Cassandra colorway. If I'm being perfectly honest, that's like teal and red orange, or coral, as the case may be. That I generally gravitate towards in anything. So that's what I'm doing my Valkyries in specifically, because of course they're going to wear my colors. But I do. So when Hell comes out, that'll probably be once I offload my Wadroon. I'll probably pick up a second faction when Hell comes out.
I will be very curious about Hell, because I do kind of like the whole shtick that they got. But I'm also curious with the update to 100k and Dwag to see where that goes. Because if they're doing well, then I might as well just like kind of keep playing them. But I might.
And also, like the Weaver Courts, I'll be interested if they ever come out to see what.
I don't give a shit about. Like if people really want to know.
I'm into the.
There was a confirmed rumor out their timing. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Like it was done publicly, so like the fuck do I care? It's faction 10. Like 9, so no one knows what 9 is. I keep saying demons because like we're not gonna reveal it, so it's gonna be like some weird monster thing. I think someone was talking about like high Asgard-esque faction. I'm like, no, just go demons, fuck it. But we know like 10 is gonna be Weavers. Parabellum, I know behind the scenes from what I've been told, has gotten the artists for Weavers to come back and do all their shiz, so that'll be happening. So that's why Weavers is going to be Faction 10, because the artist who did Spires is the same guy who does Weavers, and I believe he had like other obligations to deal with first before he could commit, and it's like the thing. So, but anyway, people are gonna have fun. That's it. I'm excited to see Weavers. I'm excited to play against Weavers. I probably don't care for Weavers. Like, it's kind of similar to like my whole thing with elves. Like, I don't give a shit about elves. Like, anytime there's like an elf faction, I'm like, yeah, I can care less.
I mean, so we've seen the Plant Lady, we've seen the Bee Lady. I don't think I really need to explain myself beyond that. I like Anthro. I like girls. That's if the faction delivers on that design space more than like, of course I'm gonna
Are you telling me that you have
gravitate
a
toward
bee/ant fetish?
that.
Wow, I'm getting my shit kicked in here.
Yeah, I would say out of the okay, whatever. We're not going to get too deep into that, but yeah, in a very
oh, I know where this is
on
going.
a very
Okay.
surface way. Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah. Yeah, if they throw me a moth girl, like
checks
get
notes.
$500 out of me.
This is a sex thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. Of course. It's like that astronaut in space with the pistol, and it's
like... It was a sex thing the entire time. Always has been.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I love how we have still talked about conquest but got completely off topic. What I love.
That's the BonkTable guarantee.
Yeah, you're in it for BonkTable. I know one guy when he's at work, I'm pretty sure he plays this podcast on the speakers, and he's like, there are some episodes that I cannot play on the speakers. Like, oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm only giving like 5%.
Yeah, you haven't even hit Kaioken times 20 yet.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the new stuff coming out. Because I don't know anything about 9. I'm probably not gonna buy it unless it's like really, really interesting or something. Like you kind of know, like if it really like wrinkles my jammies or whatever. I don't know what the fuck that's saying, but like piques my interest.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the only time I'm actually gonna do it. But where the fuck am I going in this stupid fucking game? I think I have to go do the weird blood guy shit. I have to be a... Yes? Okay. So anyway, should we talk... So we kind of were on top, we kind of weren't. I think people have an idea of what a sweeper is and kind of play style. It just kind of it's like an archetype. Like you're kind of forcing an issue, and your opponent will either have an answer or won't, and you're gonna have a better time because you're just like they can't deal with your shit. A pivot, on the other hand, let's get into that because Cassandra likes generalists. What? I don't blame her. She's an all-comers kind of growl, and the pivot list is mainly focusing on a wide variety of tools. So it's going to have a bunch of different things from your faction that kind of synergize and do combos off of really well. You have a variety of different like things you can do. Some really good examples is Spires and Sorcerer Kings. Those are factions that can easily build pivot lists that will allow them to have a ton of tools. Like Carl's World List is a good example. I believe Ben's You Do It in Jadu is another great example because like they have like -1 defense. You have a variety of different rituals that allow you to do a bunch of stuff. You have a variety of different spells that allow you to do a bunch of stuff. You kind of also get like the triple activations off of the rituals on a variety of different things, so you can start kind of hammering that out. Where the fuck am I? Roast this way. So though, like that's kind of what a pivot is. It's more of a generalist list, so they're gonna be like more combined arms in a sense for players. So you're gonna see probably 2 to 3 shooting regiments. You're gonna see a bunch of melee. You're gonna see some heavies. It's gonna be more like just has a bunch of stuff that can deal with a bunch of things. There are a variety of Nords lists that are actually surprisingly pivots that don't really look like it at face value. They kind of seem like this list is completely designed to just kind of run forward and smash. But because of the advent, or not the advent, but because of the horrors and the war crimes of Bowchosen, on top of their various like ice and sea Jotnars, they can actually get a lot done. and can handle a lot of situations. Before the update, there was the good old Shaman with Herald of the Storm. It's not as just shut down for casters as it was before. Thank God, because
Yeah.
that was a real eye opener when that happened to me in my Chuck game. I was like, oh, this is a key component to Chuck winning. And he was like, yeah, I don't like dealing with wizards. I'm like, I don't blame you. He's like, there's like 3 Sorcerer Kings players here. I'm not gonna deal with that shit. I'm like, yeah, 10 out of 10, Chuck. I'll give you money. So yeah, there's stuff like that. That's kind of what pivots are trying to do. So they're going to be all comers, have a bunch of tools. So if you're looking for like a pivot, 100k having Hunter Cadre and like Sealed Temple in your list is kind of a pivot list. I've already mentioned the Spires, like Carl's Worlds list, the Jude and Juju. What else do we got here that I can think of? Woodrune can surprisingly, this is really interesting about Woodrune. You can pivot and sweep pretty easily in Woodrune. They have a wide variety of tools like Vanguard Slingers, Cock, Tauntors, and Apexes. Like you can Thunder Riders and Vets and all that stuff. Like you can really pick where you want to go. And I've found Woodrune lists can like build generalist pivot lists with a couple dinos and a bunch of dudes and have all their toys that they want and do very well with that. Like they have a large variety of options and they don't necessarily need to build like a sweeper just because their offensive top end tends to be like pretty good and a little higher than some other factions, but their stuff kind of just dies at various points, so like you still need to watch out. Yeah, I know. Do you have anything on that? I know you've made comments before, so I don't know if you want to follow up.
No, mainly I think that's yeah, I don't know that I would say anything that you didn't already cover.
Yeah, I just wanted to get it out there because we talked about sweepers, had a big break, discussed, and then it was like, oh yeah, we gotta like actually do the topic. I must commune with the 2 fingers. Tell me your secrets, you fucking bastard. So, then do you want to talk about crutches?
Yeah, that almost, I think, really dovetails more into my point, I guess, because, like, really, in a sense, like, a lot of things are just... I like... A lot of stuff just winds up being a crutch just because it has such a huge amount of utility in the game. Like, I mean, you're almost... Yeah, I don't know. I want to hear what you have to say first.
Oh, okay. I will apply crutch. Okay, so I myself have done this. Say, okay, everyone's got to start somewhere. But a crutch is you take a regiment that's like good or above the curve or whatever, and you basically kind of just use that thing to win a lot. So like very easy crutch is Ashen Dawn. There's been the Ashen Dawn spam lists. If you looked at Adepticon, a lot of those Ashen Dawn spam lists actually didn't do very well. I don't know if it's so like I can't say for certain, but a lot of the players that were doing really well and had a high ranking at Adepticon knew how to deal with Ashen Dawn. And I know there was 1100k players and there was like 88 stands of Ashen Dawn. Only 200k players made it into the top 10. Both of them had Ashen Dawns. Like I think the third place guy, was it first? No, because Chuck won at Adepticon. Yeah, so the third place guy, Huckleberry. Once again, if you've met Huckleberry, one of the greatest guys ever. That dude's awesome. But he was running the most aggressive Ashen Dawn spam list that I believe I saw. And then there was Horse Lord, what was just fucking nonsense. So it is a crutch, and a lot of players were like doing well locally with it, and then went to a bigger event and then did not as well, or didn't, like the top end of that Adepticon was not full of 100k players with Ashen Dawn. Like that would have been like, is this really a problem? But it shows like it's not. Those players are crutching on Ashen Dawn to fix their mistakes, because like Ashen Dawn allows you to get into a bad position and fight your way out of it without being punished for it, or it's harder for your opponent to punish that bad position. So the loss of crutches is those things are good, but stop playing with them to improve yourself, because now you no longer have that crutch. You're going to have to stand on your own 2 feet, so you're going to have to pick other things and develop your positioning to win games and to reduce errors. So,
So,
go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just going to say...
I got to talk to the Bloody Rose Man anyway, so go ahead.
One thing I would say is, and the Ashen Dawn are emblematic of this ultimately, but like, I don't know that every faction... I guess I think like what makes something a crutch in this game, and what gives you that ability to fight your way out of a bad position, like ultimately if you're surviving activation to activation, you will eventually push through enough output to kill something, as long as you do it as long as you can slow them down a little more than they can slow you down. Is what I feel like in the game. And so that's the hallmark of the crutch units. So I would say that Nords, it's probably Valkyries in that regard.
Because that's your crutch?
Yeah, because you just, as long as you put them in the right place, they'll do the thing. They're not really like, as if there's always going to be one point that I need to hold and have a lot of stands on it. And so there will always be a place for D4 Blessed Valkyries. So in that respect, I think they're a crutch. But I think, and Ashen Dawn, again, it's a defensive Blessed unit. Like, they do have a counter, for sure. But if you didn't come prepared, or if you don't know that, you're going to get smoked. There's not a big enough mistake to undo the advantage of a defensive mobile unit.
Would you say a mobile fortress? The advent of Metal Gear?
Yeah.
just dumb shit. Yeah, no, I agree. Like another crutch is like the shit tickets. Like, fuck those things. Like, me playing with them, hell yeah. Opponents dealing with them, fuck those things. They're so annoying. But you can just overload the shit tickets, and knowing how to deal with that Dwight Castle of like not sending one thing at a time to attack it, where you gotta just kind of like lay it on thick with the like onto that front wall to be able to break through and then get to the juicy center, what is the Drakes. Like, that's what you got to do, but it's very hard to do that.
Yeah.
So, Dwight Castle and shit tickets is a crutch. Like, for a while, it was like Dwight Holmes' only play, to be honest, and it was kind of like, if you could consistently beat Dwight Castle, you were moving up in the world as a player of knowledge and skill. So, like, it's kind of like a hallmark. Like, it's a gatekeeper to your own advancement in the game, kind of thing. Like, if you as a player, you listener, can consistently beat the Dwight Castle list, then you're doing very well. You've broken through the gatekeeping of like less experience, more knowledge, more skill in the game, and are kind of, you got your next step of like moving up that hill, run up that hill. You got this. So
Kate Bush over here.
Sorry, Big Bush?
No, I said Kate Bush.
Yeah, she's like,
she does that song, Running Up That Hill.
Exactly. It's a good song. Might have been listening to it while I was working out today. Motivates me to get going. So, that's another crutch. Like, you're looking for things that are, as you said, the Velks, like, hold that zone, but like, you're looking for things to remove to better your play, because now you're going to be doing different things that if you ever come back to those crutches, you've actually increased your skill. So something I've noticed between like me playing Ashendon and Huckleberry, who's very, very, very good at Ashendon, is that like he understands the Ashendon better than a lot of other players, to the point where like he's using it to win, but he's actually not crutching on it like other players would. Like there's been tons of times where I've actually crutched on Ashendon, and I have noticed that my play has gone better since moving away from Ashendon, since moving away from Dwayne Castle, just due to the fact that if I make mistakes, I'm being punished for them. And so there's things that I'm like, hey, I got to be more aware of this for next game, or I need to now trying to revive this dying position because, oh god, if this breaks through, I'm kind of fucked. Like, shit like that. Yeah. So, yeah. That's kind of the removal of crutches. And I would say for players, like, play the strong shit in your faction. It is fun. But if you want to develop as a player, start taking away Ashendon. If you're running, like, 2 units of Ashendon, go down to 1. If you're running 1, go down to 0. Like, change up your list, look for those things. Nords itself, like when you're playing like Mortal Nords or like maybe not the big Velk block, I would say that if that is your crutch cast, remove it and play like with the MSU stuff and try and develop your positioning, because like the removal of crutches will allow you to develop your positioning game much better, and you'll just do better because you'll have that knowledge and experience to play into a lot more things and have a lot more scenarios and like what to do. Like, it is crazy just having that bit of knowledge that, like, not like a pre-game necessarily, but like if you played that matchup before, you're just going to be in a better position because you just understand it better.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm like, get rid of your crutches. They're not good for you. And people kind of need to hear that, because I know for a lot of people, they just kind of like, this thing is good. I have been having great success with it. I will keep doing that. I'm like, okay, are you actually having great success with it, or are you crutching on that thing? Because like,
yeah, but so
yeah,
I guess to fold it back to what we were talking about earlier, though, with the pivots and sweeps, like, you may find yourself in a position where just the slate of opponents that you have where some of those crutches are
mandatory,
like necessary to survive against the list that you're playing. So it's not always a super straightforward thing, and it is definitely going to be partly the product of your environment.
But I also believe not against your statement, but like with your statement, as you develop as a player, slowly remove them to see where you're at. Like, if you're toe to toe, let's say you got your big shark in your meta, and you're playing toe to toe and you're using your crutch. Let's say you're running double Velk, and that's working well, and you can have very close games. Or let's say you are the shark and you're playing double Velk, and that's doing really well for you. Like, remove it and see what happens next. Are you going to be losing a bunch of games? If so, go down to 1 Velk and then develop your positioning, and then go down from there. Like, it's more like you're gonna have to play games into it to see where you fall, and as you develop your skill and experience, how you can remove them in a timely manner to, like, I'm not gonna say like relevant, but stay with the pack and not feel like you're getting beaten to the ground.
Yeah.
There we go. Where the fuck am I?
I think it's called The Lands Between.
Yeah, I am. Okay. I guess I joined a duel.
Uh-oh.
Right. I was just fucking around. Okay.
Better fuck them up.
Yeah. Oh, you drinking? That's bullshit. Alright, well, I'm just keep doing this. Oh, now they're just ganking. Okay, that's cool. Oh, I fell down a hole and dead. Okay, cool. I killed one, but one of them killed me. That was interesting. I just want a duel. I didn't realize the other one was just fucking showing up. Jesus. Okay, so
Sharks.
yeah, I got derped or duped. And got me. Whatever. It's like I just need to do this 3 times so I can get the stupid thing and then I can get the fuck out of here. Don't remember. So yeah, we're talking about. I got totally distracted from that duel because I should have just ran off the edge and be like, continue with my amazing quest of get to Mogwin Palace. So yeah,
does.
crutches. Yeah, that's kind of like my thing because I've moved to the Frenzied Flame list. What is you? I don't think a lot of players really understand what it's actually trying to achieve until they play it or play into it, and it's really different Dwagholm than what Dwagholm has been doing the last little bit. They have been. So Dwagholm, I guess, traditionally has been the Dwag Castle or Rolo Castle, where you just have your gun line. Then we had Fast Dwag with the Ardent Kirawa, and because the game is getting like faster, like Nords is all like speed 6. There's triple activations. There's things that are just like very quick. Lots of movement stuff on things. Lots of fluid. Lots of Vanguard. Things like that. Those tools are more and more being relevant and prevalent. That Dwagholm needed to kind of do something. So a couple changes happened with it. Is that the hold ray now no longer has to be on the table to allow your lights to score. And it doesn't matter if he's dead, your lights still score. The other thing is that a bunch of relevant stuff in the Argent Kirla's warband gained like free banners, so the Magma Forge and Flame Berserks, and I believe the Flame Berserks actually went down in points. What kind of allowed it to just kind of go into this melee-focused hyper-aggro list, where you're just kind of bum-rushing your opponent. And your opponent doesn't really realize what that's going to mean when 4 Flame Berserkers are stabbing you and scoring the zone and keeping you off and contesting, and you're like, I got 3 stands and you have 1 stand. I'm like, but still 3 stands, so you're contested. Like, so it's stuff like that.
Yeah.
This, and then on top of that, there's nothing gimmicky in the list. Like, the gimmick is that your lights score and your mediums and characters score more. So, like, the Hold Raise Regiment, or the Argent Kirawa and Magma Forge Regiment is like 8 scoring stands for a 4-stand regiment. Like, it's quite a bit. Is it 8? Yeah, it's 8. So, like, there's nothing to, like, really get angry about or be like, damn, if my opponent didn't have shit tickets, I would have been a much better spot and could have won the game. Like, I don't have shit tickets. Like, damn, if my opponent didn't have Bochos, and I could have been in a better spot and win the game. It's like, I have no guns. Damn, like, you know, all those things where you're like, those kind of feel bads aren't in that list at all. And that list is basically requiring to use 100%, well, not 100, you know, a large majority of his literally positioning to win the game. So,
yeah,
it has no crutches. Like, if there was a crutch in the list, I would say it's actually the Ironclads, but you're using the Ironclads as a turn, like, 4 and 5 finisher, where you want to collapse a flank. Like, those are your hammer pieces. The Magma Forge, I'm surprisingly more using as, like, a follow-up to, like, oh no, my Flame Berserks are dead. Guess I'll get the Magma Forge in there. Like, get to work, boys. Shit like that. Yeah. More than just, like, I am actually going to use you as Cleave 2 guys to kill that high defense thing. I'm like, I don't really give a shit. Like, I'll get to you, don't worry.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of feeling like the Magma Forge is a no crushes list. What I'm actually enjoying. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's there's. I mean, it definitely I think comes with some caveats, but I think what you're outlining is a good practice that people should
Mm-hmm.
definitely, if they're trying to improve at the game, at least mess with a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there's an element of if it works, it works, but you should branch out.
Somehow I won because the host decided to jump down an elevator. Good job, host.
Yeah,
I didn't even want to
fucking
fight. I just want to
dumbass.
die so I get my stupid 3 invasions. Yeah. So that's that it? Is there anything more we want to chat about?
I don't know. I think that might be the deal.
Yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Not in particular.
Okay. Do you think
Yeah, I
this...
feel like we
Go ahead.
covered it.
Yeah, I think this was a good one. It was also fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I always have fun.
I'm glad.
Except going into about hour 4, then my fun level starts to drop off pretty precipitously. But
yeah, no shit. We gotta stop doing that. That on the ground. There we go. Good. What the heck was I gonna say? Do you're coming out on Sunday?
I probably will be. Yeah.
Yeah. You got your bear sharks. Did you build the beast pack or your list doesn't back?
Yeah, I haven't built it yet. I'm gonna wait just because I don't need it for this.
Yeah, beast pack or a pivot option.
Yeah, I feel like they always do the thing that they do, which is largely just die on a point.
Or like get what they have Vanguard and Fluid.
Yeah, like you can use them as a flank piece, but generally speaking, I find that that's not the way that it goes.
They mostly just like hold an objective, and then when something gets close, they just kind of like get into the flank and eat it. Like that's if you could set it up like that kind of thing. Like, oh no, my opponent's coming. Or I'm gonna rotate my regiment, so if he hits the thing in front, it'll reveal the flank to the Vener's beast pack, who can run off the zone and eat it to death. And then I'm good. 10 points to Gryffindor. Like shit like that.
Yeah.
Fuck am I going? Like I'm literally just running around like a. Yeah. I think it'll be fun. I played. Did I tell you about Collins Nords? I played it as the freaking Bear Shark Savage. That was fun. Oh
yeah.
Yeah. So like initially, I was aware of the March Charge threat, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually like really good," but at turn 5 or 4, I think it was 5. I forgot about it, and then I got like March Charged and like lost the unit Magma Forge. I'm like, God damn it! Just like shucks. But it I was still killing all his other shit, and it was like, okay, Flame Berserks, run in there and tie them up. The Ironclad will be deployed next turn if it goes on. So yeah, it was fine. So yeah, like position mistakes still happen because I could have recovered that, and not necessarily recovered it. I could have put my Mega Forge in a better position to do get better results and keep other things safe. So, yeah, I don't. Here's my thing about positioning. I don't ever think we could really do a deep dive in positioning just because of how the games play out and how fluid they are, like the game of Conquest itself, that there are too many factors, like too many unknowns, unless you're there watching or watching a battle report to really understand the positioning of the game. And there's like tips and tricks we can provide to provide players to be like, hey, rotate your regiment an inch or two. It will help for side charges later on. Hey, look at a flank. Look how you're gonna second wave follow up. There's shit like that. It's like you can tell players, but majority of the time I'm kind of like, Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's what it. We call her.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's one in the can.
Sweet. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for I don't know being good listeners, viewers, whatever you want to be. Being
Whatever the
you.
hell you are.
Be the animal inside of you. That could be furry stuff. I really don't care.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Cass, you want to do the advertisement?
Oh, yeah, join the Discord. It's pretty good. It's the link is in the info. Mass also does battle reports. Those are a heck of a good time to watch as well. You learn a lot watching those, so you can check those out in this very channel if you're on YouTube. Or if you're not listening to this on YouTube, you're going to have to go to YouTube because the battle reports have a visual component that's essential to getting any value out of it whatsoever. So I really recommend that if you want to experience the battle reports in any meaningful capacity. Beyond that, we have my Twitter. That's BonkTable Cass on Twitter. I guess I should move over to Blue Sky, but
Wait a minute. There's another Twitter?
yeah, there has been for a while. It's called Blue Sky. It's kind of like if Ned Flanders owned Twitter.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't really like it. Like, I like Twitter because it's just like it's like squatting in an old mall, I think is how House of Decline recently put it, and
God.
it is a really good way of describing it. Like there's a really fun feeling when you know you're in the last days of something, and I've really been enjoying that on Twitter these days. So BonkTable Cast on Twitter, and maybe one day on Blue Sky, but who knows? Anyway, I post sometimes. Not that much though. So
should we get an Instagram? Like, does the world need to see more of my painting war crimes? What's your thoughts on Instagram?
I don't know. I hate it personally. I think it's stupid. That's one thing that just missed me entirely. But I was born in the 1980s, so I like text.
Okay.
Pictures, video, yeah, it's too much for me. But short bursts of text, that's what I'm talking about. So that's why it's always Twitter for me. But and Threads is just a wasteland. It's a hell, but not in the fun way.
So I only got Facebook because the store where I played War Machine closed, and we need to figure out another store and to organize stuff. That happened like 2016.
That's fair.
That was the only reason I got Facebook. Like,
I mean,
I'm so
Facebook,
removed from so much internet stuff that I'm barely on Reddit. I use it mostly to just scroll through like memes and shit. And there's times where I'm like, people are like, "Oh, you should have a Twitter or an Insta." I'm like, oh, it sounds like work that I don't want to do. I love my like peaceful life of like, I play video games and paint and conquest stuff. Oh, I'm invading another world. Awesome. I can't wait to die. I'm not.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend the average person go on Twitter, but if you're a trans woman who loves to shitpost, then I'd say you almost certainly. Well, you should have been on Twitter like a couple of years ago, but it's not too late. You can have a little fun on there.
Didn't you get a like from what is it? One of the Parabellum staff or like Parabellum, where it was like.
Well, I got a like on the
on your
Parabellum from the Parabellum official on my personal account because I made a post about how and this is technically BonkTable After Dark stuff, I guess, because it gets into jokes that I'm perfectly comfortable making elsewhere, but not on this largely soft rated R podcast that we do. But I post a lot. It's a funny bit for me. You know, again, with the knowing the things about me that as a devotee of the show you would know. Talking about at length hogged up Valkyries and throwing my hog down the table, all those things I'm not going to explain it, but I think it's pretty easy to understand why I think all of those things, all those double entendres are very amusing. And I'm good at threading these types of statements through the needle of good, like, acceptable speech. So I generally like get away with it on a pretty consistent basis, and in a way that even if somebody tried to get me in trouble, like I could very easily just ignorance my way through it. So anyway, I joked about that on my personal Twitter, and I got the like from Parabellum War Games. So that to me is a mandate to keep slanging hog on main. But guess we'll see. That was
That was good. I'm glad. I'm glad they liked it. To be honest, like it was just so wild.
me too. But I like when they those Parabellum boys. You know, sometimes you get the impression they're rascals.
So they kind of are. They're like, oh, we've been in the business for 5 years and have to deal with GW. See what trouble we can get into.
Yeah, that one picture of the close up of the Thyrian's face, and then the allusion to back shots. When I saw that, and then found out that it was just one of the main guys who came up with that, because originally I thought they were like, oh, they let their 13-year-old cousin run the Twitter, or nephew run the Twitter for the afternoon, and that got posted. But no, it was one of the main guys. I don't want to say who, because I don't want to necessarily like throw somebody under the bus for that. But I know it was one of the dudes from the like one of the main Parabellum guys that we talk about on here. So, you know, a little bit of a this isn't TMZ, but that's a little blind item for the listeners at home.
Well, there's
which is like a joke that I think is meaningless to 90% of our listeners. But hey,
yeah, well,
I get to have fun too.
There's the what is it? The Parabellum meme contest, and there's a bit of me where I'm like, man, I should really submit something. And I have a meme of like, it's a picture of Leo and some other Parabellum employee, and it's like, oh, what the fuck is it? It's like, it says here in the rule book, this is how it works, and Leo's like, what now? The rule what now? It's like, he doesn't even know what the rule book is. Yeah, so just like dumb shit like that.
I definitely have a lot of memes in the clip, but I don't know how many of them are necessarily
what age
marketing appropriate. So I feel like I have to go get.
I have some bad ones. I think I have one with Carl where it's like when you meet that guy on the Discord and it's Carl Silver Swanson, and you're like, oh fuck. It's a picture of him. I think it was him at dinner, and it's just him being like all ripped or whatever. Like once you meet Carl in person, guys, he's super great, but he's also like very, very jacked for some strange reason. I don't think he even works out, to be honest. Like he just is that way. It's all his day job.
You're witnessing the Chuck Norrisification
of a man.
Yeah, of Carl in real time.
I know where I'm going. Okay. Yeah, funny. What else? I think we've done it all. People should go. Yeah, I think we're done. That's it.
Yeah.
I need to go hand in these bloody fingers to some fucking weirdo by this church. You did. Eat the blood. Blah blah blah. I want the farm spot. Anoint me. Oh, I got the piece of paper. Since you are maidenless, fuck you, dude. Get all the bitches. Okay, that's me. That's me complaining about Elden Ring. And there's a frogman rolling at me. Oh my fuck off.
Gross, kill him.
Well, he's interrupting my put the thing down so I can stop the recording.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Should we sign off? Get the fuck out of here?
Yeah.
Okay. You have a good one. I'll see you on Sunday.
50-50.
You better show up. Then
We'll
we
see.
can. Oh my god, just have fun. Come out. You're already building bear sharks.
Yeah, I probably will be out there.
Okay.
I'm probably expecting to, but it's just that my life has a way of lifing at me, so
You gonna? What the fuck was the name?
I can't rule that out.
The guy from Jurassic Park, Jeff Goldblum. You're gonna. Conquest just has a way.
That's the thing. Life finds a way, so I got a clever girl it.
Oh my.
Don't step to me. Don't throw a '90s movie in the mix.
I love that we both
have fucking jokes.
I both love how that we have consumed so much like what would be considered older media to like the young hip kids these days, like the kids who like were born in the 2000s and didn't really get started into movies until like 2006 or whatever. And we're just like, oh yeah, I'll just make absurd references to like movies from the 90s and 80s, and then every once in a while I'll drop a 70s movie because you get some weird shit like Rocky Horror. No, was Rocky Horror an 80s or a 70s movie?
That's a '70s movie.
Yeah. God damn it, Tim Curry, you're so good. Like #1 actor. Like you can know your friends by what movie they know Tim Curry from.
That's fair.
Yeah.
For me, it's PC full motion video games.
Oh, was it Command and Conquer?
Yeah.
He did really well in that one too. Space. Okay, we're having too much fun. Let's wrap her up.
All right. Well, yeah. So I mean, that's everything. Have a wonderful night, or if you're one of my many enemies, go to hell. That's BonkTable, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.
Yay.